afternoon. Tom Galuscio, President of the Westerly Historical Society, and I have the sincere pleasure of being with Joe and Carol Potter today for our oral interview for our Reflections program. Good afternoon, Carol and Joe. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
And to start our program, there's a great deal of history for both of your families here in Westerly. They've been woven into the fabric of this fine town for hundreds of years. And we'll start with Carol, with your grandparents and parents and how they found their way to Westerly.
Well, I really don't know how my grandfather Wilcox. We have to go back to the library, and of course that was Stephen and Harriet, and they never had any children. But when Stephen died, the library was not finished, and so they called in my grandfather Ethan, and he completed the library, and with a lot of help from his daughter. My mother's side, let's go back to Jonathan Nash, the first lighthouse keeper. And then from him, it was our grandfather was Winslow Nash, and then Edwin Nash. Winslow built the Bay House on Bay Street, and then Edwin was next in line, next grandfather, and my great-grandfather there, and he was the one that went out and saved all the people when there was the shipwreck of the Metis in Watch Hill. He took his boat and he went out and he saved several people, which he got the gold medal for, and we went from Washington. Then my grandfather Nash, and I knew my grandfather Nash, and what a wonderful man he was. He was so sweet to me. But, and also my grandmother, Nash. And of course he was the fire chief at Watch Hill for many years. And of course during the time that he was the fire chief, they had the Great Fire. And that was his great-grandfather's hotel that burned. They had nothing but just the pumper at that time. And then finally, I think it was around Essex, that they sent the little Alfie, and that helped out a lot. Okay. And of course, my mother, Lilibel Nash, she was quite a swimmer, and she did work. Of course, they lived right on the end of Nepentry Point in Watch Hill. And they went to school. When they got old enough, they went to school with the trolley, and the high school was then beside the library. But she was premature. They didn't think she was going to live.
Well, Wilcox and Nash families are certainly on the map in Westerly. There's no doubt about that. Joe, how about your grandparents?
Well, I don't go back to Roger Williams like she does, but I was born up in the north end of town, way up north. I was born, I always say, second floor, front bedroom, April 29th, 1933. And we grew up there. We walked to school. We went to Immaculate Conception School to the 8th grade. And I had 4 sisters. I have one surviving, Kathy Potter. And we had a good childhood. It was slightly, just after the Depression. So things were, you really had to scratch for things in those days. You had to be frugal, and my grandfather was Grandfather George Galucci. He was a gardener, and he was a gardener for the Mellon Estate down at Watch Hill, and he was the gentleman that was responsible for doing the hedge along the Watch Hill Road to the Arch. But back in those days, there were no power tools. It was hand clippers, and he worked for the Mellons for 35 years as a gardener. When he wasn't at the Mellon Estate, he was planting every square foot of the property that he owned. And he and my grandmother lived on the first floor. We lived on the second, and my aunt and uncle lived on the third floor. And it was a very active house. Weekends and particularly Sundays was Grandpa's day of rest. It was church and then back to home, and we had many visitors come on Sunday morning to meet with our family and just say hello and pay respects. But it was a fun time to grow up.